Going, and this is one of our theme songs, and here we are, gentlemen. Here we
Hello.
are. Welcome to the Canadian Bro Show. My name is Paul Bale. I'm the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. Really excited about today's episode. This will be our 96th or 97th episode in the last year, and the Canadian Bro Show was sort of the brainchild of my own demented brain about 15 years ago, and I just really felt with YouTube as a growing venue for exploration of creativity. I really wanted to be a part of it. I just, being a late bloomer and slightly lazy, it just took me 15 years to get here. So I just wanted to thank my co-host with the most, Mr. Johnny Leister, and my other co-host with the most, who's not here. He focuses on all basketball with the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Raleigh, and that's Trent Rowley. And then, of course, my our old friend from Kitsilano, the talented and prolific Mr. Keith Bickford, the Kitsilano comic book guru, who I'm calling him for this episode. Thanks for joining us again, Keith. It's our third episode. We've had some really nice episodes in the past, and Keith, Johnny, and I, we all grew up in Kitsilano. We all knew each other. I met Keith before I met Johnny. I met Keith in 1971. He might be one of the earliest people I've ever met in Kits when I moved, just prior to moving to, Third and Vine. And I just want to say thank you to both of you for joining us. And you're looking good. The content looks good. And in the ticker below, folks, that if you haven't been to the show before, it breaks down the episode we're doing now. It breaks down a little bit of the basketball episode, the second iteration, all basketball from Pauly and Raleigh, who I mentioned earlier. And of course, it talks about Johnny and I approaching our 60th episode and the health and well-being that we like to do. In the meantime, this show is about Stan Lee, the legend that is Stan Lee. Yeah, and that being said, gentlemen, let's get right into Stan Lee. And how would you like to start this, Johnny?
Okay, I'm going to ask Keith, what do you think? Well, we all know who Stan Lee is.
No,
right?
we don't, and that's why we're doing the show. But I know of him, I just don't know enough about him, because he was a legend up until he passed at 96, I think Keith said 4 years ago. Right. And what he did to the comic book genre is unprecedented. I don't know if there's anybody that you could say is number one. And if there's anybody that can tell me, it's you guys.
Well, Stan was an iconoclastic writer who started off as a gopher, as a young man. He was a cousin of Martin Goodman's wife. Martin Goodman was the man who wrote Timely Comics, which is what Marvel Comics was called back in the day. And Stan wrote his first story for Marvel when he was 19. It was a Captain America story. And he continued to write comics until the early 1960s. And mainly he was writing science fiction stories with twist endings and funny animal stories. The superhero genre was kind of on the downswing after World War II. And so in the early 60s, he decided he had enough of comic books. He wanted to get into advertising. And then along came Martin Goodman, who had just played golf with the guy who owned DC Comics, Carmine Infantino. Now, DC Comics had a huge hit with the Justice League. And Carvin told this to Martin Goodman, and Martin said to Stan, it's like, hey, we want to do superhero book too. So it was good timing, because Stan was just about to bail out, and it was his wife Joan who actually said, Stan, you've been writing these stories for 20 years the way that other people want you to write. Because comic books were primarily for kids back in the day. So for example, he was not allowed to use multi-symbolic words. The stories had to be really simple and with good morals, and the characters had to be very straight-laced. And his wife Joan said to him, Stan, why don't you just write the book the way that you want to write it, and never mind what other people think. And thus the Fantastic Four was born, and it was a hit right from the get-go, and that was the beginning of the Marvel Universe.
Interesting, and that was our soundbite before the show. We were just talking about that because I read briefly, and I didn't know that all tied in. That's interesting. Yeah. Thanks, Johnny.
And it's such an important life lesson. When we do things the way that we want, the way that we think that they should be done, versus what other people think it should be done, it tends to work out pretty well. I think the history of the world supports that theory. Okay, I want to ask Keith, what do you think was Stan's greatest contribution to the industry, the comic book industry?
Greatest contributions.
You're in the hot seat, buddy.
Well, I mean, what he did different than other people was that he humanized his characters.
He made the characters three-dimensional. He gave them
three-dimensional
foibles and
versus,
insecurities and idiosyncrasies.
Yeah, he gave them like human
Yeah.
flaws and stuff like that, and basically it made the characters a little bit more
Human.
Yeah.
relatable.
If you read a Justice League comic book in the early
to
60s,
like the readers.
yeah, the Justice
Right.
Leaguers. I mean, I liked the DC comics too, but those characters, they all got along with each other all the time. They're all
Right.
always on friendly terms. But the Fantastic Four, they bickered, they argued. Ben Grimm is very angry because his friend Rita turned him into this huge orange monster, and he was in love with Sue. And so there was all of these character dynamics that were so relatable, and it was such a refreshing a change, really a game changer for the entire industry.
Yeah.
And it took DC many years to catch up.
Very nice synopsis there. Thank you.
I mean, over DC, they were Stanley. I've read quite a few biographies of Stanley, and the boys at Marvel, they used to laugh because over at DC they were saying, "Well, how come Marvel is selling so much more comics than we are?" This is in the 1960s. Oh, maybe it's because they have red covers. So they would they put out a Superman comic with the red. Like they didn't occur. Sorry, just spat. It didn't occur to them for many, many years, sorry, Keith, that the reason the Marvel comics were selling is that they were telling better stories. And also the Marvel stories continued. They always ended to be continued. So, that was, you wanted to get the next issue, whereas the DC stories tended to be more self-contained, right? One and done.
Right.
A marketing approach, and both had their pluses and minuses, but for a long time, a Marvel was outselling a DC by a significant factor. Okay, my next question to you, Keith, is now Keith and I grew up. We read a million comic books for a long time.
We're gonna bang questions off in unison.
Okay, what is your favorite story that you remember that you're fondest of that was written by Stan Lee?
Probably really early Spider-Man storyline.
Yes, same here.
Not necessarily like Amazing Fantasy 15 or Amazing Spider-Man 1, but it was Amazing Spider-Man 31 through 33.
Wow, getting specific.
And what is it, Keith, that really sort of captured your
Is that the
imagination
one
with
where
it?
he's trying to push the metal off his body? He's in the water.
Well, he's stuck underground. He's
That's a classic story.
Doc Ock, and
Right.
he needs to get medicine for Aunt May to save Aunt May, and all the bad things happen to him. So yeah, he's got to overcome stuff. It was just pretty cool, like reading something like
And
that.
Steve Ditko was such a good fit for that character. And it's so weird because when I was a kid, I remember Keith and I complained about Steve Ditko. He was the artist. He actually co-created Spider-Man with Stan Lee.
Yeah.
And we used to complain about Steve Ditko. Oh, his art is so terrible. But now as a quasi-adult, I really admire his art, which is much more... He wasn't a Neil Adams, he wasn't a John Byrne and Alex Ross. He had his own unique style that was somewhat more cartoony, but it was really a good fit for Peter Parker. Because initially Jack Kirby drew Spider-Man, and Jack Kirby was a legendary comic book artist, and he drew Peter Parker apparently bulky and muscular like Captain America. And Sam was like, no, he's Peter Parker. He's a 15-year-old boy. I want him skinny. I want him to look like a regular kid. So we handed it over to Steve Ditko, and it was a good fit. For me, my favorite Stan Lee story was, I don't remember the specific issue, but Peter Parker, who was in high school, was faced with a bully named Flash Thompson. And Flash hated Peter, but was just a fan of Spider-Man. So somehow they got into a boxing match, and Peter's like, oh crap, what am I going to do? I have to fight Flash. And so I remember that there's the whole page, one panel after another. Well, Peter's sort of the weakest punch, the absolute weakest punch that he just gives Flash a little love tap, and it sends him flying to the other side of the ring. And it was just such an amazing, and Peter, of course, felt guilty. He felt bad about it. And so he humiliates Flash, which Sam Raimi kind of did in the first Spider-Man movie a little bit. I wish they'd actually played more of that relationship. Because this is another thing that was great about those stories. There was character development. Flash and Peter eventually became friends. They started off as adversarial, but eventually it grew into a friendship. Flash went to Vietnam. Harry Osborn, Peter's best friend, became a drug addict, and Peter helped him get off drugs. Again, you had all of these fantastical elements, characters with, physics-defying superpowers, and plots to take over the world, and aliens and time travel. But
Good Lord, I couldn't ask for two better chaps to explain everything. My goodness.
What was Stan did, and it was
Brad,
it
was Peter Parker's first love interest.
right.
Who was that, Keith?
Eddie Brandt.
Well, they were sort of tentative. I don't remember them actually going out on a date. It seemed like they had sort of a flirty
In the
thing.
21st century, when you say you're dating, it means you're, wow, wow. You know what I'm saying? It's not. You're not dating. You're, you know what you're doing.
Let's keep it family friendly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we try to be. Yeah.
It's so amazing. The comic book industry has been around since I want to say the mid 1930s, like 35. It took 30 years for someone like Stan to come along and say, you know what? We're not just creating trashy content for kids to teach them how to read. That's just going to wind up as lining on somebody's birdcage. We can create stories that are just as meaningful, just as inspiring, just as uplifting and moving. And even I remember there was one issue of Spider-Man where George Stacy, who was Peter's girlfriend's father, he was a police officer. And it turned out that he knew all along. He knew right from the get-go that Peter and Spider-Man were one and the same, but he kept it to himself because he was a good guy. And George is murdered by that hateful prick, Dr. Octopus. And George Stacy's lying in Spider-Man's arms. He's waiting for the ambulance to come.
All right. Okay. Johnny's going off on a tangent again. He's doing the Trump answer, which he doesn't let anybody else ask any more questions. He just keeps on going.
And Peter and George says, Peter.
Oh my God! And you're still doing it.
Because that's the end.
Thank God! Because I want to let Keith talk. He's our guest.
All right, go Keith.
So my first question, because Johnny banged out two right away, and Keith hasn't even brought one, is my question to both of you. But I prefer Keith to talk first, if you don't mind. Is why is Stan Lee considered the most important comic creator of all time?
He's definitely the most recognizable.
I mean, this is just setting the tone as a big picture legacy question, basically. That's why it's my first.
I guess he created the way comics are done.
Designed, the story.
The Marvel method or whatever they call it.
Right.
Let's talk about the Marvel method. Like, what is that? Because that was something that he created.
Yeah.
That's where he gave the artists a sort of a little synopsis or outline, and then the artist went and filled out the story, did the full story, and then handed back the pages to Stan, and then Stan went and wrote the dialogue.
Yeah, Stan said it was like doing a crossword puzzle.
Like
he just fill in the word balloons.
Well, the interesting thing is, really quick interjection, is what I did find out today from the book that I took from the library is that after Stan was playing golf, when he was young, his first job in the comic book industry at 15 was not to be an artist, an editor, a storyteller. He was an eraser, a professional eraser.
Yep.
He cleaned up the crap that people did, and that's how he started. And you can see why that first job really helped set the tone for all of the things that he did for comic books.
He filled inkwells.
He was a gopher.
He was a gopher.
He drove the other
got
stuff.
lunches and stuff.
See, a lot of people don't know that. I didn't know that. That's really cool. I didn't know he's a golfer, and I'm a golfer. I love golf. That's cool.
Yeah. Okay.
So so Keith, is there one thing? There's the thing about Stan is there's not just one thing that makes him in terms of the first question that I asked, makes him the most important comic. It's everything that he did is more than anybody else.
Oh yeah.
Was able to do.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's just.
He's a fine-tuned machine.
Well, he just made. Well, the movies made comics more mainstream, but he basically made comics mainstream back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah, it made him a little bit more legitimate. It goes back to the whole human flaws, more relatable to the reader. Readers can get closer to the characters, whereas, with the DC characters, they were...
Do you remember Stan's Soapbox?
Yeah.
Where he would write a column in every issue, and it was about his personal life, and upcoming projects. Again, when you read a Marvel comic as a kid, you felt like you were almost like an extended family.
Yep.
You felt like he spoke to the reader like he was speaking to you like directly. And very often if you're reading the comic book and he'd have like in a box, you might remember from the previous issue that this happened. Like, again, you felt like you were a part of a community. And another thing is that Stan, when he started publishing Fantastic Four and Hulk and Spider-Man, Marvel started getting letters, like not just from kids, but from adults too. And the adults were saying, I read this issue of Spider-Man to my son last night, and I found myself enjoying it just as much as my son did. So I think that was really the beginning of comic books becoming this kind of a fringe part of pop culture, and little by little, sort of integrating more into the mainstream.
And after every episode, it would always be like, come back for next episode.
Right.
And it kept you interested. It kept you attracted to the character development.
Something could happen in Spider-Man that might impact something that would happen in Fantastic Four. Again, it was just because Stan wrote all the stories, or co-plotted all the stories. His brother Larry did some of the writing.
Oh yeah, I got questions for that.
Okay, go.
No,
you're up.
No, I mean, Keith, you got any questions? You want anything to share with us that maybe?
No, ask me your questions.
Okay,
Your questions.
Johnny, I think you're next with the question.
Right. Let's see what I have on my phone here. Let's talk about the time that Stan wrote for DC Comics. How did that happen? This is around the mid-2000s, I want to say.
Okay, so how about let me answer this question before you answer that, because this is earlier. How did Stan Lee change superheroes forever compared to what came before him? Before we dump a jive, because he created numerous characters before the Fantastic Four.
That's true, and none of them really clicked.
Well, quite a few of them did in terms of popularity, but how did Stan change superheroes? Because obviously we're talking about the human factor. Everyone knows that he humanized them, and if you look at, there's a movie, it just pops in my head, and I really loved it. I had no idea what it was about, and I can't even remember the name, but I've seen it probably 10 times, and that was failed superhuman characters that were our age and tossed to the curb. No longer. You remember that movie?
Watchmen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Man, did I like that movie. I really enjoyed that interpretation of superheroes. And talk about human frailty.
Yeah, a little too
and being made redundant, and health issues, and being broke or being an alcoholic. I mean, it was really quite interesting,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, Tony Stark, who's also known as Iron Man, was probably the first alcoholic superhero. I don't think Stan wrote the stories in the 70s. There was a storyline called Demon in a Bottle.
It's funny how they choose their lead actor as an alcoholic.
I think there might have been some premeditation.
Of course there was, but he wanted to, because he actually knew that. He said, look, I've been a comic book fan my whole life, and I've been an addict my whole life. I mean, he had his first drink and first line of Coke when he was 7 years old.
Yeah.
And he fell in love with comics and ended up being the number one comic actor for Stan Lee in Iron Man. Iron Man 1, I believe, was at the time.
Yeah. He was so
groundbreaking.
Character. I wish they would bring it back. I don't like that he's playing Dr. Doom. He's playing a villain in the next one. I hate that.
Yeah, well, Dr. Doom is coming back. It's about time they brought him in, and that's where it's a follow-up to the Endgame. Is that correct?
Yes.
I haven't seen any of them.
Yeah, they're all great.
None.
I mean, literally, Keith, the last episode you brought up, we asked a question, and you brought up the one that Johnny recommended to me, and that was Captain America...
The Winter Soldier. That's my favorite movie.
Yes.
And
one. Honestly, I got through that about an hour, and I was like, wow, I did not expect this, but it was good. I need to see the whole thing because it was not what I expected.
Yeah.
But Johnny told me to watch that one first, and I'm glad you did. So I've got all of these on Disney Channel, just on a side note. I want to see them all, and I will. But, I mean, some of these movies are 2 and 3 hours, and it's so hard to find 3 hours in a day, man. 24 hours. But Johnny, you asked your question. Is it mine now?
Sure. You want to? Actually, I got a couple more on my phone here.
Well, no, I mean, hopefully you got more than a couple. I got 10.
Let's talk about, as I mentioned earlier, the time that Stan wrote for DC Comics. I found that to be very interesting back in the day.
Hey, before we do that, in my notes, the reason why I asked the question about Stan Lee changing superheroes forever because of the movie that we talked about, but also I wanted to have sort of a perfect lead-in into flawed superheroes, if there's such a thing. And there are, certainly in the movie I mentioned and you brought up, humanity and relatability, which I think Stan Lee really is the first one to sort of, you guys mentioned that. And that really helped transcend comic books for all ages, not just children.
Exactly.
Right. So your question, Johnny.
Okay. DC Comics. How did that happen? You remember?
Don't really know why. It was like 2001.
It was a big deal, as I recall.
Yeah, I mean, basically DC let Stan Lee reimagine his
he created his own version of Superman, Batman, all the DC characters.
Yeah,
the distinguished competition.
just imagine.
Right. I read a couple of them. They were kind of fun.
Yeah. I mean, one was it Wonder Woman was like an activist that got sun god powers. Bruce Wayne,
but she was a hot athletic activist in an outstanding outfit.
Of course. Well, they did that with Catwoman. They made her like some supermodel.
And Halle Berry singularly destroyed that entire franchise for films.
I saw that movie. Who wants to see Halle Berry in a mask?
But they made.
Well, I mean, that's why everyone watched it, right? Really.
The Bruce Wayne character, African American.
Oh, I haven't seen any of those.
Yeah, framed for like some crime he didn't commit. That's why he became the vigilante.
Oh, that's good motivation.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, Stan was always on TV. He was on the Mike Douglas show and the Murphy.
Yeah, always.
I remember one time he was wearing a Captain America.
And the Mike Griffin show, too.
And I think this is why Stan incurred some enemies as ugly part of human nature. He was so extroverted. He was such a lover of life, and he really put his heart, mind, and soul into not just writing and creating and publishing comics, but promoting them. Like he went to colleges and universities, and he made lectures, and he traveled around the world.
There was nobody that was equal to him. Sorry.
Yeah, and other people weren't doing that, and so that's why some people feel. I don't want to ask Keith about this maybe later or maybe now, but that's why some people that Stan was like kind of like a publicity hound, or taking too much credit for the characters. Like I just recently read a book called Origins of Marvel Comics by Stan Lee. It doesn't give any credit to Jack Kirby or the other artists that produce the comic books. But again, that's just marketing. And a lot of people that report this stuff, they just don't. They're just lazy. They're not doing their research.
Well, in terms of, let me interject, Johnny, because you'll just keep on going on. Is the episode that you wrote? Hopefully, you're going to be reading at the end of this episode because we're doing.
Oh, good.
That.
Thank you.
Yes. No. Thank you. That's why we, we're adding this to the show, right? Keith, you want us to keep on asking questions?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah, go ahead.
We'll challenge you because you have no idea what I'm going to ask. Here's one that I was kind of curious about. Which Stan Lee created character best represents his philosophy in life, and why?
I can answer that.
It's for Keith. You can answer it after.
Okay.
Unless Keith has no idea.
No idea. I would guess Spider-Man.
So I would say great for debate, because when you think about Spider-Man, X-Men, Iron Man, etc., he created those all in an image of himself.
Right. That's what writers do. That's what you're doing.
That's what Johnny does.
Stan has actually talked about this. He's the character that he says represents him the most is actually the Silver Surfer. And really? I was nuts about the Silver Surfer as a kid. And this planet-eating villain named Galactus shows up at his home world. He's going to eat his planet, and Norrin Rad, who becomes a Silver Surfer, volunteers to find another planet for him to eat so that his planet can be spared. And Silver Surfer comes to Earth, and he flies around the world, and he sees human beings for what we're good at and what we're horrible at. And there's a lot of almost like a spiritual philosophy in the way that he spoke that reflected what Stan really felt about life and about humanity. So
black or the?
Well, all of it. And Stan has said in many interviews that it's really the Silver Surfer that most reflects.
Wow, it's interesting. I've I've got Silver Surfer 1, by the way.
I used to have that when I was. Remember?
I got it. I don't even know what it's worth, but it's in great shape. I've never read it.
$2.
Tons of money. Now.
Is it? Keith, I've got to get some of those plastic bags. Hopefully you brought some to give to Johnny. No, I'll get them to, when I come to Vancouver, I'll get some more. I'll buy them off you, and I'll just change all my comics. I only got about 150 comics or whatever, but it's not like Keith. Keith's got like 100,000 plus comments, and we're not going to tell you where he lives, because we don't want anything happen to those comics. And he doesn't live in Canada, by the way. The Canadian government asked him to take his 100,000 comments and go somewhere where people actually care about comics. And Keith just said, okay, F you, I'm gone. And disappeared.
In hiding.
Well, no, he's back out now. My question for Keith is kind of along the lines of it. And as a writer, I'm just coming up with stuff that I was curious about because I didn't know very much about him. With his quote, "With great power comes great responsibility." Why has this message, which is so powerful in so many different levels, has endured for so many decades?
He's famous for it. One of the many sayings that he's famous for.
Yeah, he's got a lot of really good ones, but why that one? Because that one just stood the test of time, like most of his, because he was just so good at what he did. I really like that. What was he really trying to say? With great power comes great responsibility. Was he talking about himself or the superheroes that he created, the characters, or both?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe he's talking about himself.
I think so. I think so.
In charge of Marvel Comics.
The origin that he came up with for Peter Parker is really one of the best superhero origins of all time. Because Peter initially, when he gets his powers, he does what most of them do. He tries to make money off of it. He becomes a TV star. He's appearing on the Ed Sullivan Show, and he's walking out of the studio one day, and this thief goes running past him, and the cop runs up to Peter Spider and says, "Hey, you could have stopped that guy." He's like, "I've got better things to do." What the hell, you son of a bitch! He said, sorry, he didn't say that. And then Peter goes home, and his uncle's been murdered. And he hears on the radio that the police have this guy cornered, and Peter puts on his costume, and he goes to confront this guy. And guess what? It's the guy who killed his uncle, who's like a father to him, that he could have stopped had he not been such a prick. And it really is very, very uplifting. And again, very adult-themed origin. And then when I was a kid, really resonated with me. So I think with great power comes great responsibility. All of us have some degree of power, whether it's physical power or intellectual power, and an obligation to use it in a way that's not, at the bare minimum, not harmful to others.
Yeah, I mean, you look at someone like, as an example, you say everyone's got a superpower. I was curious, and Howard Stern, who I've listened to on Sirius X for quite some time, and I enjoy a lot of what he did, but when he steps outside the boundaries of what he did, and he did his first cinema movie, and it's called Fart Man. and I was like, oh my God, Howard Stern, his superpower is that he has unbelievably violent flatulence? and he's flying through the air on a cable? Are you guys doing something nefarious down there?
We lost light.
We lost the light. It's okay. We have enough visibility. It's a little bit.
No, it's okay. It just contours the shape of your. Keith, you're the exact same chap you were when I met you in 1971, bro. You haven't changed, except you had hair back then, if I remember correctly.
A glorious blonde like Thor.
Hey, just a memory, Keith. Did you have were you ginger or strawberry blonde?
Marianne.
A little bit.
I'd say it's more like silvery blonde.
Right, but your sister was more orange, right?
Yeah, it got more dirty. I'd say.
Yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
As I recall, never used once in his life a comb. Dude, you never combed your hair, as I recall. Did you ever? I loved it. Look, it suited you. It was a good look for you.
But,
well, it's a good thing you didn't, because now you don't have to worry about it. Except, do you got to shave your head?
Yep. Hair today, gone tomorrow. Yep.
Why do bald people shave their heads? Is it because the patch that is still there looks like it's like a toupee holder? What is that? I have no idea. It was just out of curiosity.
But I found it too time consuming.
You ever seen a superhero, Keith, that is bald?
Oh,
Aside from Silver Surfer?
Punch Man.
One Punch Man.
And the Thing has rock head, so he's bald, but it's rocks.
He in the movie for some reason. The new Fantastic Four movie, the Thing has a rocky beard. How does that work?
Hey,
Buddy.
do you want to keep the question going there, Johnny? What do you got?
Sure. Well, I remember reading DC and Marvel comics as a kid, and I loved them both equally. But again, the DC comics that I read as a boy, they didn't really stay in my mind. You know, the characters were all kind of the same. Like, you could give one piece of dialogue to Wonder Woman, or you give another piece of dialogue to Batman, and it was pretty much interchangeable. They all had the same personality. But again, over Marvel, and this is another thing that stands, each time he created a new comic book back in the day, it was completely different from what came before.
Yeah.
Fantastic Four, and then the Hulk, and then Spider-Man, and then Thor, the God of Thunder. Doctor Strange was another one. The X-Men, right? Some of them were kids, some of them are older.
Sergeant Fury.
Then again, Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, and then eventually he became Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Yeah.
You know, you just felt like it was like, and again, all of these stories coexisted in the same continuity. So you just had this feeling that you were living in this alternate world.
Universe. Yeah, and it was all continuity.
And it was just as satisfying to me as any great novel or any great movie or any great TV series.
Yeah.
And I remember as a kid feeling like, why are people so disdainful of this stuff? And if they're not interested, that's one thing. But when Keith and I, when we were kids, Paul, I feel like there were a lot of people that just were very, very, they just didn't see the beauty that we did.
I honestly, I couldn't understand that because I had a different philosophy and approach to comics, not like you two, and that's why we're doing this show. I wasn't highly addicted to comics. I was addicted to, as Keith mentioned in our first episode 4, a year ago, that I was, and a little bit of flames came out of Keith's ears when he said it. I was a speculator. I wasn't a true comic book collector. I just wanted to make money from my Star Wars collection. Well, yes, I did. But I happened to, the Star Wars 11 movies or whatever it is now, I've seen all of them multiple times, and it's my favorite science fiction series as a young man in 1977 that I've ever seen. And I loved, Space 1999. And, and then the big ball, the one that you always talk about, Patrick McGowan.
Yeah. I'm not a number. I'm a free man.
He always does that.
He's number one.
Anyways, let's get back to the show. I got a question for Keith.
Was Star Wars your first comic that you bought?
No.
Do you remember the very first comic book you ever read?
I
don't. Was it a Marvel comic?
Justice League of America 150.
Of course.
Wow. Yeah, actually, you know what, Keith? I can't remember a comic that I bought before. Oh, I know what I bought before Star Wars. I bought the Shadow.
Oh, yeah.
I've got the Shadow episode 1. It was 1974, 75.
It was great art.
Mike Coluda, yeah.
That was my first, I believe, if I remember correctly, that was my first one because I thought the guy looked cool with the black hat and the gun, and he looked like an assassin, and it just sounded good. You know, the Shadow, you can't see him.
Like Batman.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't Stan Lee's favorite character that he created, all of them? Batman was his favorite? Is that correct?
No, Batman's DC.
I know, but he loved Batman. That's what he said. He loved it. But his first one was Spider-Man, right?
The first character he created?
No, the first Marvel characters were the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
Before.
Right.
That was the one that really.
But then he got into DC and created some others, right?
Briefly, just like for 1 year.
A couple years for DC, yeah, early 2000s, but it was just reimagining existing characers. Basically,
I remember going to Keith's store and asking him this question. Sorry to interrupt. I just went up to Keith and said, Keith, why is DC still hanging on when Marvel dominates? And
it caught up eventually.
What's that?
It caught up eventually.
Oh, I know. But I mean, what did DC do that allowed them to grow to the level of Marvel's, which was the most dominant brand
I
in
think
comics.
Marvel shrunk, not DC grew.
There we go. Yeah.
There's that, and I don't know. I think basically DC started writing better stories.
Yeah.
That was it.
You had a new generation of writers.
The
Yeah,
British
younger
invasion.
writers coming on board that read Marvel comics, like Jim Shooter read Marvel comics. He said, "Hey, why can't DC?" Jim Shooter wrote his first. He was a writer and an editor and a publisher. He passed away recently. He wrote his first public story when he was 13.
Wow.
And he read Marvel comics as a boy, and then he read the DC comics. Like, well, why can't the DC? So he wrote Legion of Superheroes. I think that was the first story he ever sold. And so he gave, again, that was sort of the beginning of those characters having distinct personalities, which he learned from Stan. I think for me, what broke the mold was in the late 60s when Stan wrote that anti-drug story that we talked about on the previous podcast, where Harry Osborn becomes a drug addict, and Stan actually published that comic without the approval of the Comics Code, which is a pretty big deal. It'd be like me going to work without my license, and I get busted without my license, I'm out of the job. I mean, that could have cost. He could have been a severe punishment for that. But he skated by, and the issue sold like hotcakes. So DC, what do they do the next month? They not only write their own story about where Speedy, Green Arrow's sidekick, because they actually have him on the cover, with a needle. This is the late.
No way.
I know. It's one of those classic. I mean,
I've never heard that. My God.
Blowing off parents, moms and dads' heads back in the day. He's actually got a needle and he's sticking it into his arm. And Gruno's like, "What? My warts?" Because that's what we cut characters talk back in the day, very expository.
You know, and Johnny does this in almost every one of our episodes. He leads in with something unbeknownst to himself. That is my next direct question. How did Stan Lee use comics to reflect real-world issues like discrimination, fear, and identity?
That was another good
Social commentary, right?
Yeah.
Racism, civil rights.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That's
sexism, drugs, violence.
Another thing, his stories take place in New York City. There's over DC at Metropolis and Gotham City, which is fine. They're make-believe. But again, they just, because they took place in New York City, it just gave it more of a reality. And again, as you indicated just now, he incorporated political events, like the Vietnam War, like student uprising, like Kent State. He incorporated that stuff into the stories. Again, it just felt like this alternate reality, just like this one, only with heroes.
Interesting, because and for those that will be watching, we mentioned we've incorporated a new segment into the show that because Johnny's a prolific writer, and his character he writes about is Lee Hacklin, and he's a private investigator from the 70s, mid-70s, and we're old enough to remember the 70s quite well. And Johnny's writing is really, really good, and he'll, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about our favorite books and comics, and Johnny's going to read an excerpt from his latest, which is a comic book related writing, so it's kind of fascinating.
I want to hear Keith's critical evaluation.
Please, yeah, absolutely. I just want to interject.
Is very, very, very important.
Genre stuff I read. So
let's see, what do I have on my phone here for Keith, Mr. Bickford? What? We kind of broached upon this earlier. Do you think that Stan was unfairly credited as a sole creator by the mass media? Because a lot of times Stan would be interviewed, or he would be guest on a talk show, and he would be presented as the creator of Spider-Man without giving credit to the artists who very often contributed to the stories.
Johnny, it's just lazy journalism.
Yeah, that's the problem. I think it was basically the journalists were
morons. They didn't do the research.
And some of the artists were very resentful of Stan, and I think they're being very.
They were just jealous of him because he's so talented.
Again, he was extroverted.
He's the public face
speaker
of Marvel.
He had personality,
but nobody else. It didn't sound like any of the other creators wanted to do that job.
That's true, eh? That's true.
And he was self-confident. He was cocky. In a good way.
But I mean, Stan. I don't know. It's like. If like a journalist came up to him and said, here I'm talking to Stan Lee, co-creator of Spider-Man with like Steve Ditko, he would acknowledge it. But if like another journalist came up to him and said, hey, this is Stan Lee, the creator of Fantastic
So a lot of
Four,
people would think that Stan did like everything.
He would never like throw the other creators into it unless they were mentioned.
Yeah.
Right?
It's nature. I don't think Stan
Yeah.
was like deliberately.
Like, I don't know if he was doing it. Like,
no, I don't think he was. I give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Because when you read those comics back in the day, he gave those artists, you know, Jack the King Kirby.
Yeah.
Like, again, that was another thing that you didn't have in the other comics.
Yeah.
He gave sometimes the credits in the DC comics were like this big. The credits in the Marvel comics were like movie marquee.
Yeah.
Like neon. Like, I think Stan went out of his way to give credit.
I think the comments you both made, and Stan was a very confident guy. He was very in touch with his own, you know, essence. He was comfortable inside his vessel, and it showed. And he was charismatic, and I always found him to be fair and generous with co-creators and artists and.
The fans loved him.
Oh my God! And well, there's a reason, because we all associated you guys more so than me, but he brought a human side to him that was real, and at the same time he was this iconoclast. Right. He was this legend that was larger than life.
I just think that like money had a lot to do with it. Like,
totally.
On.
It always does, eh, Keith?
These creators, like, you know, when he was no longer like the editor-in-chief or, you know, sort of like face of Marvel, and he was still making money.
But he was also art director.
Yeah.
He was publisher. I mean,
editor.
He made a lot more money than the artist did, and
yes.
I think that's why some of the artists were resentful of that.
Well, they're just jealous.
That was not within his control. And I think he said that many times in interviews. He's like, "Hey, what am I supposed to do? Not take this money?"
No, but he was aware of that way before, and of course it became even more noticeable when it was his own family, agent, managers. Everybody wanted a piece at the end when he was 96 and hanging in, and then he realized that the walls are closing in, and all these guys that I've been supporting and friends and co-creators, all of a sudden everybody's after him for the money, and they all forget about how he changed everybody's worlds.
Yeah. Right. Well, a lot of that stuff has come out since he's passed.
Of course, but I mean that was happening. I remember reading about this shit and his family and the financial situation. I thought, oh my God, man, it's just so insidious that these people, that's all they think about is money. You can't take it with you. We're all gonna go, and you're gonna deal with your karma. So.
What we leave behind and what Stan left behind, you know, will outlive us.
Oh, I mean, like I say, he's a true legend. Kind of like you and Keith on just a smaller level.
Oh,
you know, Keith's a Kitsilano comic book guru, and Johnny, we got to come up with a proper title for you. Although I do like the title. My next question, Johnny, if I may, what role do you guys think that Stan Lee played in turning comic books into mainstream pop culture? Now, I know we've kind of just edged around that, but this is more specific. What do you think that he saw and decided to really focus on that in turning comic books into mainstream pop culture? Was it the fact that he did everything and he had the power and the confidence, and some would say the arrogance, because he was better than everybody else because he could put his hands in so many different things and people respected him? More importantly, everybody wanted to get paid. You know, what was there a time when Stan Lee was not mainstream and then all of a sudden was mainstream?
Well, I mean, I would say like in the 60s with Marvel's birth,
69, was it?
It was still pretty
1961
pretty niche.
Fantastic Four.
Initially, yeah.
So I don't think I think that it became mainstream because of him. Like I said, it goes back to like the whole humanizing, being the characters being relatable and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
and continuing storylines.
And he was just
he had a verisimilitude.
You know,
Dr. Doom is not exactly relatable, personally, myself.
Well, he is kind of because he's vain. right? The reason he wears that mask is he has a little scratch. Yes, he has a little scratch. He's on his face.
I thought he was mutated under that thing. I thought
that's what he wants people to think.
Yeah.
Remember, isn't there one issue where he actually takes off the mask and it turns out he just has a little scratch?
Oh my God, man, that's like Warren Beatty on crack. What's going on there?
Characters all have depth. They're all idiosyncratic. They're all relatable, and sometimes you don't like them. Sometimes Ben Grimm would act like a little baby, or sometimes Peter Parker would be very childish. Or like I remember the classic issue where he throws his costume in the
garbage. Yeah.
And he's like, "Get hell with the world! I'm not gonna be a superhero anymore. It's not worth it." And of course, and I remember reading this as a kid, thinking, "Oh my God, is this the last issue of Spider-Man? Is this the final chapter?
Right?
My life's over."
Yeah.
And then of course, like the following issue, something happens,
a month later,
he puts his suit back on, and he's web slinging through New York City, and he's like, "I'm back, New York, and I'm better than ever. Buy my next issue."
That's awesome. Johnny, got a question?
I think I'm spent, bro. I think I blew my wad.
God, you got to work on longevity, bro. You got to last a little longer.
It'll get worse.
Coming up
Do you
on
think it'll get worse in the future?
Coming up on 45 minutes.
The backlash to Stan Lee.
No, I got more questions because Johnny is he has a tendency to blow the load a little earlier than probably he should. Yeah, well, I mean, there's reasons for that, but we won't go. That's a different show. We can add that to the health show in the future. Yeah, let's just stick to comic books and kids.
I mean, Stan inspired a lot of writers to pursue.
Yeah. I mean, here's my next question. There you go, Johnny. You just lead into my next question. Keith, you want to say something before?
I was saying, like, the most famous writer from like the 80s, 90s, 2000s, Chris Claremont. Basically, he wrote like Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that wasn't accidental.
Got paid by the word, so there were
right?
words.
There you go. That's interesting. I didn't know. I forgot about that.
Back in the 60s.
Yeah.
Today. But Chris Claremont's comics were pretty dense.
Yeah, totally. My question is, was Stan Lee more of a writer or a visionary or a promoter?
All the above.
And why did that matter? Because he did all the above where no one else did. It's an answer to my question, but it's obvious. I just wanted to hear what you guys had to say.
All the above, but I mean, it goes back to like the Marvel method, with allowing.
You're saying the Marvel method's a formula, Keith?
Yes, and it gave like the artists a lot more leeway to create, be more creative.
Yeah, like over at DC, the writers would write a full script, and they would give the script to the artist, and then the artist.
Is that because they're paid by the word?
I guess that it just made sense to them to do it that way. Yeah. But Stan, as Keith indicated earlier, he would come very often, because he was writing so many books, right? Yeah. He was writing all the books almost. Yeah. So he would come up with like the Rhino. Spider-Man fights the Rhino next month. And they would give it to John Buscema or John Romita or whoever, and they would draw the book based on sometimes even just a little paragraph. Yeah. And then Stan would just fill in the word balloons. That's why the story sometimes didn't always make sense. Yeah. Like I noticed, like you'd be like, "What? This dialogue isn't quite match what's going on in the action." It didn't always work, but it worked. Let's say 90% of the time. And they were like Stan was at his best when he worked with Jack and Steve. And Jack Kirby, who also went on to become a writer, Jack Kirby actually wrote comics for DC in the 1970s. I mean, his writing style is very bombastic, not as good. But what my point is that he's like the Beatles. They were at their best when they were together. Separately, they still had their strengths, but when they were together, again, it was a synergy that created a product that was very popular and remains popular to this day.
Yeah, nice answer, gentlemen. I totally agree with that.
But he's like, I will remember him more as promotions, like promoting.
He's really good promoter.
I don't necessarily see him as like the writer,
or the artist.
Definitely not the artist.
The writer in some cases. Everything.
But definitely the editor in chief.
Oh yeah. He's the man behind everything. He's like the head of the
Well,
The Beast.
He grew up during the Depression.
Yep.
And he went to movies. They're 10 cents to watch a movie, and he
Yeah.
watched The Adventures of Robin Hood, and that's what inspired him. Say, I want to be part of this world. I want to be a creator. And he entered writing contests when he was a boy, and he won them all. And that's what helped him get his foot in the door at Marvel Comics. Plus, I don't think he's related. He was a distant cousin of Martin Goodman's wife.
On a side note, Keith, I sent Johnny recently 3 different writing competitions where they paid money.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny just shrugged them off like, yeah, whatever.
If I didn't have to work full time, I would probably do that stuff.
Dude,
but
if one of your Lee Hackland things gets sold,
yeah,
you don't need to work.
that would be great. That's my goal.
So just, I'm not telling you what to, I'm just saying.
Thank you so much. No, I looked at that stuff, and it is very interesting. Thank you so much. Keep sending
Yeah.
it. I love it.
No, I'm not going to keep doing it if you don't do anything. What's the point?
Movie company.
You need to get people to read your stuff, and that's the key thing, right? Do you want me to do the next question?
Should go for it, Paul.
Sure.
I only got a couple more. How important was Stan Lee's connection with fans to Marvel's success? Obviously, very important, but that question is multi-layered. And was that success so important in that he could continue with Marvel's and explore DC and go 6-7 decades into his career? Or because of what he did as the editor-in-chief and hiring everybody and everybody wanting to get paid was why Marvel's was so successful? You see what I mean? Like, there was a half of his career was building Marvel's and then succeeding and then continuing.
I think that he made himself indispensable.
Good answer.
Yeah, good answer.
Basically, somebody would say Marvel Comics, or somebody would say Spider-Man or X-Men, something like that.
Iron Man, it was all his own making.
He was the
Stan
wellspring
Lee,
of Marvel.
right? That's
Without Stan,
the
there's none of these movies.
No, he's just so prolific and he dominated everything.
But I mean, when he went to DC, Marvel was probably trying to get him to retire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because everybody else wanted a piece of the action. But I mean, the reason why I brought that up is because my research said it was fan letters and conventions and cameos, all the film and true believers and all the things that succeeded. He was way beyond just the comic book genre. His promotional activities and his personality and how he was able to communicate very clearly. And he was very dynamic. I remember watching many interviews, and he was charismatic as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, he made just so much more money after the age of 60
Right.
Before.
Absolutely. That's why I asked, because it was obvious.
Way more money, right?
Right.
And that was essentially after
Didn't he start
was
another
editor-in-chief.
company? What was Pow Entertainment? That was another company that he started,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
He
Yeah, he did a production company, and
Pamela Anderson.
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but
he actually said something cheeky in an interview once. He goes, "What? Why did you hire Pam Anderson?" And he looked at whoever, I can't remember who, he asked the question. He goes, "Are you serious?"
And she's a great actress.
Yeah, she's a great.
I mean, he essentially
she's
just
the
got
Meryl
like a
Streep
lifetime
of,
contract
Hot Bloods.
for Marvel, and basically he could do whatever he wanted. Like later on in life, do TV shows, and
He had a lot
movies.
of unrealized concepts. I read one of his biographies. He came up with a story about the White House being run by the mafia, which I would like to see.
Well, it is right now. So
very timely. He was a great ideas guy.
sorry if you're a Trump fan. Sorry about that, Keith. That guy's a scumbag.
Well, the alternative. That's the way. I'm not necessarily a Trump fan.
Keith sees the good in everybody.
Yeah, there's no good in that man whatsoever. Sorry. Johnny, do you have another question, or you want me to go bang out the next one?
You bang out the next one. I think I'm done. I'll try to come up with
The
something.
last one?
I think
I got two more.
You said 2 more ago.
No, I got 10. Johnny always brings 4 or 5. right? I mean, that's why I bring 10. Sometimes I bring more because if we're doing a film review show, we'll talk about often the same shows if it's a certain genre, right? And I know what shows he's going to bring up. What's that, Johnny?
We grew up watching the same stuff. Right?
Oh yeah, man. Oh yeah. Except I'm more into horror and gore and violence, and all that really fun family stuff. That's why I love the zombie genre. Keith, I don't know if you like darkness and violence and zombies and Dracula and all this stuff, but we did an episode on our favorite zombies, and it was a lot of fun, man.
It was really fun. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, Mark Justice and his crew. It was great. But this question is, again, for both of you, with the primary on Keith. What do people misunderstand or ignorant or perhaps just overlook about Stan Lee's legacy today? Is he forgotten, or was his legacy will go on forever?
I
mean, it's been 4 years.
The average reader of comics is aging out.
But the beautiful thing about his comics is they all turned into movies.
Yeah.
And by the way, he was quoted in an interview that, why did you cast Scarlett Johansson in the role of the Black Widow? And he looked at the guy and he was going to say, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
But what he was thinking was Pam Anderson, because she is a superhero. And Scarlett Johansson, let's face it, very easy on the eyes.
She's not hard to look at, that gal. But one of the reasons those movies are so successful is that they're so faithful to the source material. Like Joss Whedon read comics when he was a kid, and that's why the stuff that we grew up with. Remember those TV movies like Spider-Man, and so they made a lot of changes. They squeezed out what was great about the stories. But the new generation, the Russo brothers, they stayed true to the source material. So when I saw the Avengers back in the day in 2005, I lost my mind. Because I was looking at this stuff. Well, these are my childhood dreams. Come to reality, come to the corporeal world, and so brilliantly. Chris Evans just epitomizes Captain America. All of those actors are.
Yeah, he's really well cast in that one.
It's like they left out of the comic book page, and even some of the dialogue is taken from the movies, and some of the changes that they made were actually improvements. But those changes would not have had to be made had it not been for Stan's faith in himself, following his bliss. And not trying to please other people other than himself. And I think that's an important life lesson.
No, good answer. And by the way, was there 3 Captain America movies?
No, there's
2.
War was the last one.
Yeah.
Although there was the one with Anthony Mackie, Bold New Day, Brave New World. Brave New World was the last one.
Yeah.
Right, I haven't seen that.
Yeah.
I heard it was Harrison Ford's in that one. Harrison Ford becomes a Red Hulk.
Oh yeah, that's probably why I didn't see it. Come on, man. Harrison, retire, bro. You're like 84. And no, I love him, and I love what he does. But I mean, they had to do on the last Lost Ark, they had to AI him to make him look 15 years younger.
When I heard that title,
that was disconcerting right there, bro.
Dial of Destiny. I thought that was a game show. This was the worst title they could have come up with.
A cheesy game show from the 70s that didn't get more than 6 episodes.
Did you see the last Indiana Jones? I saw the trailer. It looked good from what I saw. Did you see it, Paul?
It's terrible.
Was it?
No, really? I couldn't. No, I couldn't. I can't do that. No. I don't have time. Is the only thing I have left that's valuable at this stage of my life. All 3 of us are 60s, and the clock's ticking. And do I have time to waste?
Yeah.
I couldn't get through Zack. I'm a big Zack Snyder fan. I couldn't get through his director cuts of the movie that he cut in 2 and made them 3.5 hours long each. And it was a copy of Star Wars, pretty much the story.
I know the Rebel Moon.
Yeah, part 1, part 2, and I love that stuff.
Oh, really?
But I watched the first one. I was like, my God, what a pile of garbage, man. And I love Zack Snyder. But when they did the R-rated one with the violence, I said, why did you do that in the first place? Well, because of commercial viability. If there's an R attached to it and there's too much gore, or an X-rated. R and X-rated films, unless you're Ryan Reynolds, are not making any money in today's world.
I suppose you're saying. You know, there was a Daredevil movie in the early 2000s with Ben Affleck. If you watch the director's cut that came out a couple years later, did you ever see the director's cut? It's way better. Oh my God, it's almost like it's almost like another movie.
Yeah, I've heard. Is that the blind? He's a blind superhero.
Murdoch is a lawyer. He goes,
Yeah.
And he has hyper radar senses. Hear and smell. Braille.
But that's a really good point. You keep on bringing up some good points. We should wrap things up. I got one last question, and then I've got a couple of rapid-fire ones, and then we can get into the closing out the show. But this one here is number 10. If Stan Lee were alive today, and he was just 4 years ago, although barely, and what his family did to him was atrocious, what do you think he would say about modern superheroes and pop culture just in those last 5 years? Would he say it's all a big pile of garbage and then swear and light up another smoke? Or would he think that some of these newer examples, which I haven't seen, with the Black Panther, I haven't seen any of those. Everyone says they're amazing.
The first Black Panther was good. I didn't see the second.
Yeah, and the second one wasn't that good?
I didn't see it, no.
No, Keith? No?
Chadwick Boseman passed away. He was a star. So that.
I know. It's a cancer, and a young man's alive, and he's on top of the world, and he's dead in 6. It's crazy. But what do you think, Stan? Would he like what's going on, or do you think he would just shake his head and go, "I was the best"?
Positive guy. So
yes,
I don't think he would crap over the industry.
Okay.
But I do think that. I think that he would look at the way how comics are written, and the topics that they write about.
I think that he feels that some writers maybe go a little too far.
Yeah.
Like there's an issue of Green Lantern where Green Lantern comes home from saving the world, and his girlfriend, not safe for work, his girlfriend has not only been murdered, but she was dismembered, and the killer put her parts in a refrigerator.
What?
Now, look, yeah, I know, right? Now, I mean, it's a story. It's make-believe.
No, it's like Jeffrey Dahmer was a superhero, but a bad one.
But I think that some people would I think Stan might have felt that some writers push the envelope a little too far.
Right. A little too graphic, perhaps?
Into nihilism.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think that Stan likes the superhero movies. But, like, I saw Black Adam. I saw it on the plane going to Australia. And it's a lot of heroes fighting each other for no reason. You know?
This book that I'm going to talk about when we do the books, this Tower of Shadows, 10 episodes, is extremely violent and dark. And that's why they're lost marvels. It just wasn't mainstream enough, I guess. I don't know.
I got the biography today. I started reading it. I'm going to finish it. And really encompasses the totality of Stan's life, even his grandparents coming to America from Romania, where they were facing anti-Semitism. And I think that's why Stan wrote so much about bigotry, because he actually went through that.
And one of the reasons why Stan changed his name is because of his his Jewish heritage and everything that he went through. And let's face it, world history wasn't exactly very kind to that heritage, and it still isn't today, obviously. And
he didn't want initially, when he became popular, he didn't necessarily want he didn't want Stanley Lieber.
Lieber, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't want that being associated with comic books
because
he wanted to write the great American novel.
Yeah. He was saving Stan Lee for that.
He wanted to do something serious, and he thought that being attached to comics might hurt him. Initially.
Yeah, that's an interesting comment, Keith, because I heard that when Bruce Lee was alive, I think Stan did one of his little micro segues into one of Lee's movies.
Yeah.
And rumor was the reason why he took Lee is because he absolutely loved Bruce Lee.
I didn't know that. That's interesting. Huh?
No, well, and that's what I heard. And they did an interview together because he did, Stan Lee loved to do 35 of them, loved to do little cameos on films. Mm-hmm. And he did a cameo, supposedly. And they just absolutely everyone loved Bruce Lee. I mean, he was just an amazing dude.
Stan's cameo was in, was it Endgame, where he's a mailman? And he has He has a letter for Tony Stark, and he says, I have a letter for Tony Stank.
That's hilarious. Anyways, to wrap things up, last word, Keith, and then we'll go into closing it down and talk about our books and Johnny's writing, and of course Johnny's favorite thing he likes to do at the very last of the show when everybody's not watching anymore is what are they called?
A pun.
Puns. My God.
Pun,
yeah. So last words, Keith. Yeah. Anything you'd like to share on this episode? Thanks for joining us again.
Summation.
Always good talking about.
Oh, hold on. This is rapid fire. This is for you guys. 3 rapid fires. You ready? Favorite Stan Lee cameo, which is why I was leading into this.
Well, I already answered that.
Yeah?
I haven't seen all his movies.
35 cameos.
35 of his movies.
Do you remember any cameo that he did that you thought was interesting?
Yeah, he saved a little girl's life in the first Spider-Man. Like
that's the one I was thinking about.
Little girl.
Isn't he like a mailman in
he was
yes.
at the end of the game.
Yeah. Yes, Keith. That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of the stuff.
He was an army general in the first Captain America.
Right.
Yes.
What was he in Thor?
I can't remember. Now.
There's 35 of them. I mean, there's quite a few over the years. Okay, so the most underrated Stan Lee character.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's why I brought it.
They're all great.
Let the 2 comic book geekoids fight over that one.
Hawkeye, Vision.
Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Okay, Johnny.
He evolved.
I'm coming up with goose eggs. I mean,
wow. I'm glad somebody came up with someone.
I would say with Doctor Strange, maybe off the top of my head.
Right.
Okay, in the early 60s, the X-Men was not a popular comic book, which is hard to believe. In fact, in the late 60s, they were actually reprinting.
Yeah.
I remember as a kid buying...
And it was being published bi-monthly.
And I remember...
really? Okay.
Buying a new issue of X-Men. Oh, Keith, this used to piss me off so much. I never talked about it. I was buying a new issue of X-Men as a kid, and I'd start to read it, and it would be a reprint of a previous issue. Like, what a way to take a kid's money. I mean, I didn't care. I still read it again and enjoy it. It wasn't until the mid-70s where they rebooted it. They introduced Wolverine. They introduced a whole bunch of new characters, and it just took off like crazy, especially after John Byrne took over the artwork.
Yeah.
But I mean, not every character that Stan created. I think Hulk was actually canceled after 6 issues. And then they brought it back. Like, not every character he created hit the ground running, but most of them did. And again, it's another important life lesson. You're not always going to hit a home run. The important thing is that you step up.
Yeah, no, good answer. And the last one, Stan Lee quote that still stands and hits today. Is there something
with great power?
The one I said earlier? Yeah, absolutely.
Enough said.
It took me years to understand what Nuff said meant. Remember Nuff said? Yeah. I'd be like, well, who's Nuff? Which character is Nuff?
Enough.
Yeah, I know. It just popped in my head, the crossword puzzle answer. And I was so happy. It's like, oh, a mystery solved finally.
That's funny. And anyways, that's everything, guys. That was very enjoyable. We like to finish our show up at the Canadian Bro Show. And before we go there, for those that, if this is your first time, the Canadian Bro Show has only been about a year we've been doing it. I founded this about a year ago and brought in Johnny and Trent and a few rock stars like Keith and a few other guys that we're going to bring in and bring back. And we're really happy with the growth. It's baby steps. If you enjoy the content, it's free. Our podcast is free at the Canadian Bro Show. The first iteration of the Canadian Bro Show is essentially what we're doing right now, and that is with the co-host with the most, Mr. Johnny Leister, a very prolific writer, and our guest co-host, hopefully will come back more often than not because we love having him, Mr. Keith Bickford. All of us grew up in the early 70s in Kitsilano. And we've known each other for over 52 years, and that's very rare in this world, and we're all still alive, and hopefully we can continue on being alive for quite some time. In the meantime, I was looking at the stats on Studio, which is the back end of YouTube, and almost 90% of people, there are people watching the show, which is great, and they're watching for an extended period of time, which is great, but really to help the show if you could just comment, subscribe, like. It's right below the screen. You can see the logo above Johnny. It really helps us with the YouTube algorithms. It helps us grow the channel. It helps us get more comments. We will answer every single comment. And until we just have so many comments that we won't, but we'll find a way to answer those as well. In the meantime, if you enjoy this, we're at 97 episodes at the Canadian Bro Show in about a year now. We really appreciate the people that do come back and watch, but those 90%, just hit subscribe. You'll see the little thing on the screen. It really helps us out. We really appreciate it. And in the meantime, this episode was our third episode that we've done on comics, because Canadian pop culture, comics are what we all grew up with in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s, and it's still there. And it's created so many great films of content. And Stan Lee, his legend, needs to be talked about, like Keith Bickford's legendary Kitsilano comic book collection of over 100,000 comics. I mean, I don't know how many comics you have, Johnny. I got like maybe 150 max.
There's number one.
Yeah.
One day. Yeah. I brought it to Vintage Collectibles one day, and they said no, we want this.
That's awesome. But to finish the show, what we like to do is we like to read. We're readers and writers here at the Canadian Bro Show on different variant levels, and each one of us brought a book. And our guest, Keith, what did you bring? What are you going to share with us today?
Right. A book? Oh.
Or a book, a comic, whatever you brought, bro. It's all good.
Got a Stan Lee, a book on Marvel Comics.
Excellent.
I've read this book. It's really interesting.
Oh, that's the one you showed earlier. That is. What's the name of that? Marvel Comics, The Untold Story.
Yeah.
Is that something recent?
No, it came out like 10 years ago or something like that. But
And is it good? Is it easy read? Interesting?
I enjoyed it.
It's interesting.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Woo!
What?
That's beautiful. Look, it's bagged and everything. Oh, sweet.
You brought a comic too, Keith?
Oh, nice.
Oh, just this graphic
Hard
novel.
copy. Okay, yeah, excellent. Oh man, that looks really good. What's the title? Fantastic Four.
Fantastic First.
Oh, Fantastic First. What is that?
It basically reprints all the number.
Oh, sweet. Oh, look at that.
All like the first appearances of Marvel Comics.
That's the first appearance.
Oh wow, that's cool, man. Is that pretty new or is that old as well?
No, this is old. This is probably like
I've never seen that
30
book
years
before.
ago.
Yeah, I've never seen that either.
Amazing.
Yeah, but it's got basically the first appearance of
Who
all
wrote
characters.
the text? Oh, the artist?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
You know.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah.
And is that a read that you've done more than once, or is it just something you read once and then you put it in the brain?
Well, over the years,
Keith has a big brain, by the way.
you'll read,
Cookie.
reread the stuff.
Yeah.
Right?
I like the casing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks really nice.
Yep.
All right, Johnny, what do you got, man?
Okay, well, I just got this book from the library today, another biography of Stan Lee, and again, getting into his history, personal history, his family.
Did you get that from the Vancouver Library?
Yeah, I just got it like an hour ago. I read.
Oh, nice.
And I'm probably.
Do they have a pretty good selection of Stan Lee stuff?
There's like 6 different Stan Lee biographies, and some of them are laudatory, and some are a little not so much.
Yeah.
But I like the ones that are well-rounded.
Yeah, for sure.
So
Awesome.
Every aspect.
And I got this I'm in Kelowna, and Keith and Johnny are at the Vancouver Library in Vancouver. I live in Vancouver and Kelowna, and my wife just flew in from Vancouver for Christmas yesterday.
Hi, Flavia.
Yeah, she's working actually right now, as usual. This is something I got from the library that's 5 minutes from my house in Lower Mission, and it's called Marvel Tower of Shadows.
Very
And
good.
it is the Lost
Take it away.
Marvel, the Lost Marvels Volume 1. And Stan Lee is all over this. Every single one of these orange tabs that you see are all Stan Lee, mostly editors. And I have 10 issues in this book, and it's pretty interesting.
So this is stuff he wrote?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to bang these names off for you. He edited all of these episodes. And so, can you guys see that?
Yeah.
Tower of Shadows is a lost, never before collected Marvel title, even though these 9 episodes of comics featured Marvel's best creations working at their peak. Here's a list of people that you guys will know. I probably don't know most of them. Neil Adams.
Oh, he's the best.
Jim Steranko. Barry Windsor Smith. John Buscema. Wallace Wood. Gene Golan. Mary Severin. Bernie Wrightston. Stan Lee, of course. Roy Thomas. Ron Romita. Johnny Craig. And Jerry Conway, just to name a few.
Those are all legends.
They're all what, sorry?
They're all legends, those guys.
Exactly. And this was the only book I was able to find at the library, and it was gifted. It was right there for me. So I'm really glad I made the effort to go to the library, and I'm really glad I had the opportunity to share this with you guys, because I couldn't have think of 2 other guys I'd share this episode with. It really very much enjoyable.
This is stuff that was published in the 70s, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember those books.
Yeah. And it's like back then, there was a lot more diversity in the comic industry. There was a lot of like westerns,
They loved romance books.
Other than
remember the Partridge Family? And David Cassidy?
Yeah.
It was a David Cassidy comic.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But yeah, no.
I think my sister had a poster of him in her room.
A lot of comics based on TV shows.
Yep.
Yeah.
There was a Bewitched comic book.
Yeah. But yeah, Marvel had a number of horror titles. Some of the stuff was like reprints.
There was a Logan's Run comic book.
Stuff from the 50s.
I remember that.
Yeah. So, but this was all original stuff.
And they did a lot of movie adaptations. Like Food of the Gods had a comic book.
Yeah.
A lot of like For Your Eyes Only was a Marvel comic.
Hey,
I like that. Yeah.
There's a lot of in some of the other Marvel.
Blade Runner was a Marvel comic.
The Marvel horror comics, they had a lot of prototype stories of like characters.
Yeah.
You know, Conan. There's a Conan character. Iron Man. There's a character that was
Ant-Man.
Probably a prototype of the actual Iron Man.
Ant-Man started as a horror story, right?
Yep.
Man in the Man in the
They all appeared in Marvel horror.
Stan probably copied The Incredible Shrinking.
Oh yeah.
Or inspired, I should say.
Yeah.
Inspired. Yeah, exactly.
We don't want to
that's really interesting. Anyways, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Great content. We're about an hour and 15 minutes in. Before we go, we just want to say thank you again for joining us at the Canadian Bro Show. And please subscribe, like, share, comment, and continue to watch the Canadian Bro Show. It's free podcast. And we like to talk about Canadian pop culture, the second iteration of the Canadian Bro Show outside pop culture, although basketball could be considered pop culture because it was invented by a Canadian, Dr. James Naismith. And of course, I'm a hoop junkie. I used to play professional basketball, and that was a long time ago, 26 years ago now. But in the meantime, Johnny, before we go and say goodbye, you have a pun today.
And can I read one of my Lee Hacklin excerpts, or do you want?
We're going to let's do the Lee Hacklin excerpt first. And before you do that, John, can you just share with everybody a little bit about Lee Hacklin and where you come from and why it needs to be on Netflix as a retro New York 70s?
I'll try to put it succinctly. In 2019, I became a self-published author. I wrote my first Lee Hacklin book, and I've been writing these stories ever since then. He's a private investigator. I based him on Jan Michael Vincent. He's very good-looking and very charismatic and a wisecracker and a ladies' man. And he's a smoker and a drinker, but he's a heart of gold. And he hates bullies and he likes looking out for people. So
he has hair and bad taste in clothes.
He has one suit. He drives a white Dodge Charger, and he smokes Blue Buzzards, which is a cigarette that I created, much as Quentin Tarantino created Red Apples for his movies.
And the title of your episode today?
My latest Lee Hacklin is called Piano Manslaughter, which is about the murder of a concertinist, and I based it on liberal action. Okay, here we go. New York City, 1979. Nuts, he's here. Who were his stupid brothers? Of all the restaurants in New York City, why did he have to be at this one? Her name was Angie Rawlings. She was the latest in my long line of brief and failed romantic relationships. She was my age, 27, and bore a surreal resemblance to Velma from Scooby-Doo, complete with tinted glasses. Some men prefer Ginger to Mary Ann. Some men prefer Daphne to Velma. Some men prefer ketchup to hot sauce. Some men are idiots. It was a clear and chilly Friday night in December. Santa Claus is coming to town. A perky hostess pointed at her name tag and said, "Good morning. I mean, good evening. I'm Twinkie. Get it? I'm your hostess, and my name is Twinkie. Right? Welcome to Crumbs. Oh yeah, the Gramercy Tavern. It's my first night. I've been fired 5 times this year. Who knows why? I'll tell you why. Politics. It's all politics. It's not who you know. It's who you blow. Right? Do you have a reservation? What's that word? Oh yeah, reservation." She was blonde. Just saying. Oh,
perky and blonde, and a Twinkie. I mean, everybody wants to eat that.
And not too bright. Family friendly.
Even better, I guess.
We do. Hacklin. Don't fret, Velva. Angie. No harm shall fall upon thy matchless beauty. The force is with me, princess. You don't know Jack. Twinkie scowled. Well, I hope you don't have matches. That means you smoke. Smoking causes cancer. The Surgeon General said so. There were 3 men in their 20s seated at a table near the kitchen. They were far on the south side of sobriety. One of them stood staggered, steadied himself, grabbed an empty bottle of male beer by the neck, and approached us. The lively patron chatter fell to silence. The soundtrack playing in my mind was Ennio Morricone's The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Wow, wow.
Angie stepped between us. Sit down, Jack. This is a restaurant, not a gladiator arena. You're making a fool out of yourself. Again, this is why I broke up with you in the first place. He was tall. I wrote this for you, Paul. So was Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He looked down upon me with the sneering indifference of Galactus, only drunkard. Go home, pretty boy. That's my straw you're sucking on. One of his brothers yelled, "Knock him out, Jack." I drew my Browning and pressed the business end against his groin. Jack released his bladder and his bowels. Men poop in my presence as often as Godzilla stomps on Japan. Velma, Angie, is not a straw. She's a woman. You're a man. Why don't you try to act like one? He dropped the bottle and tears streaked down his face. I love you, Angie. Oh, poopy pants. I love you too. Let's get the cab, go back to your place, get you cleaned up, and grind like bunnies. I'm sorry, Lee. I'm a sucker for recalcitrant losers. After dinner, alone, I drove home to my Queens apartment building and checked my mailbox. Empty. That's okay. Better than a "your life is over" letter from the IRS. I entered my suite and checked my answering service. No messages. I called my mother and then my sister. No answer. There was a 12-pack of Mail LL Supreme in my fridge. I polished off one after the other while watching the Dukes of Hazzard, then Dallas. After a seemingly endless puke-a-thon while showering, I went to bed and cried myself to sleep. What's wrong with being alone? For your hero, dear reader, everything. And that's chapter 1.
Lee Hacklin, what a loser. I mean, what a great guy. And that's excellent, Johnny. I've read hundreds and hundreds of his, and I really enjoy them. And Netflix retro 70s. How many of you guys can name all of the 70s and all of the Kojak, Rockford Files?
Yeah, that's probably my biggest inspiration for this character.
Right, and then what's the guy with the Slayer of Demons?
Kolchak.
Kolchak. I love that one.
Yeah, that was unbelievable.
He was great, man. It was so good. Anyways, and your pun, Johnny. Johnny likes to finish with a pun.
Hold on to your seats.
Oh, I don't have a seatbelt with this chair, but I'm holding on.
Dr. Seuss's mother was a massage therapist. She was also known as Ma Seuss. You're welcome.
If it takes you a split second or two to understand that, just take it in, say it again.
Crack that Keith Bickford. This guy. He's so critical.
Dude, that dome doesn't have a single scar in it for a reason. That thing, you could take a cast iron pan and it would bounce off that thing. You know what I'm saying?
Everywhere else. Everywhere else.
Yeah, right? Anyways, boys, the Bro Show, this is the Canadian Bro Show podcast episode. Well, we've done 96, 97. This is 59. And thank you very much for joining us. Really enjoyable content, whether you like comic books or not. Comics started and they changed into movies and they changed into books, and they'll keep changing, and because we need content. We need things to keep us paying attention and enjoyable in our home and whatever movie you're going to watch. And if you don't like movies, read a comic book. Read a book that we've presented today, because there's a lot of really interesting information there. And if you like, go on YouTube and check out at the Canadian Bro Show. And if you don't want to see Canadian Bro Show, check out a lot more on Stan Lee if you're interested. It's quite a fascinating career. Man is truly a legend, as is Keith Bickford from Vancouver. My old friend and co-host of the most, Mr. Johnny Leister. Thank you again for joining us. My name is Paul Bale, the founder and host of the Canadian Bro Show. We're signing off right now, and thanks very much for spending your hard-earned time with us today. And we will see you next week. Thanks very much, guys. And before I go, if there's one thing I could say, just be kind out there. It's such a crazy world. Be nice to somebody, help somebody out. Don't expect anything. Just be nice. It's free. As Trent, my co-host of the most from the all basketball from the Hoop Junkies, Pauly and Rolly, says, it's free. It's free. It's free to be kind. It's also free to be an asshole. Make the right choice. I love it. Anyways, in the meantime, thank you, boys. We'll see you again. And thanks again, Keith, for joining. And yeah, we'll take care. Peace, love, and happiness to all of those. And be kind out there. Thanks for joining us. What a great episode. Great guys.